It's officially AEW pay-per-view week, but this one in particular is very special. I think I made it pretty clear on this channel that I don't care what others say. I'm hyped for this pay-per-view and nothing anyone says will change my mind. The majority of the matches on this card have been built up over the past few months. But where's the story? It's literally right there in front of you. Just say you don't watch the show. It seems to be making people upset that AEW is making their core fanbase happy right now, but who cares? If this pay-per-view delivers on its potential, it could possibly go down as one of the best that AEW has ever produced. Obviously, the big story heading into this show is Sting's retirement. Revolution 2024 will be the last time we'll ever see Sting competing in the ring, and every time I think of it, my eyes get a little bit misty. You guys have to understand that Sting is my GOAT. He's literally my #1 of all time. I'd be better served talking about his legendary career in a separate video where I can put care and attention to every single little detail. But for now, the Greensboro Coliseum, a venue synonymous with Sting throughout his career, will welcome him in one last time as the credits roll on an illustrious career. It's gonna be a packed house, one of AEW's biggest crowds ever outside of All In, and they'll all be there to pay respect to a legend, an icon. And the card that's been built around Sting's last match is worthy of such a monumental moment as well. So many potential show stealers on this single pay-per-view. AEW will probably end up adding another match for the pre-show by the time this is out, but that's okay. The main part of the card is set, and that's what matters. It's time I give you my predictions for Revolution 2024. I'm gonna start this one off with the latest match added to this show as of the time of writing. Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus FTR. This feud sort of came out of nowhere, but it's already provided us with a reason to care. The first match that these two teams had just the other week on Dynamite was fantastic, but it ended in a time limit draw. There must be a winner this time around. FTR seems to be on a good run of form. They've just recently won a feud against the House of Black alongside Daniel Garcia, but now they're facing some of the baddest dudes in AEW in the Blackpool Combat Club. This feud seems about FTR wanting to prove themselves against the ace of AEW, Jon Moxley. Earlier this year, Mox welcomed all challengers and told them to keep up, so naturally, FTR took the challenge. Considering all 4 men in this match have been protected by AEW to varying degrees, it makes it an intriguing match. On one hand, I can see Moxley getting the win just by virtue of being the ace. On the other hand, I can see Claudio being the one who takes the loss to the guys who are actually a full-time tag team. I'm going with FTR getting the win by pinning Claudio, which could make for an interesting dynamic between him and Moxley. Here's a match that I wouldn't have predicted for the pay-per-view just a few weeks ago. Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT Championship. Christian is the father of the year and still one of the best and most consistent characters on AEW TV. Daniel Garcia, on the other hand, has been a huge focus on Collision, and it's obvious that he's being primed for some big moments in 2024, this being one of them. As for if he'll actually win though, I'm not sure. Tony Khan has this thing where he likes to stick to his plan no matter what, even if it means waiting months and people overstaying their welcome as champions. But I hope he's learned from his mistakes and knows that if Adam Copeland is going to be out for a while, that he should pull the trigger on Daniel Garcia. However, if Cope will be back soon, then I can see Garcia getting very close to winning here, only to have it taken away at the last second. That can also help him get sympathy from the crowd if done right. It's hard to predict without knowing everything that's going on behind the scenes, but I'm going with my gut. Garcia will come close, but it won't be enough. Christian Cage will retain his TNT title after some patriarchy shenanigans. Then we have yet another title match as Orange Cassidy looks to defend his international title against Roderick Strong. I'll just say it. After such an excellent first run with the belts, I haven't really enjoyed Orange Cassidy's second run as international champion. It just feels like we've been in a holding pattern until Tony Khan figured out what he wanted to do next. Nonetheless, I think the right direction for the belts will be made here, and I expect Roderick Strong to win the title. Otherwise, the Undisputed Kingdom will be all but dead. This is a case where what happens after the match has me more excited than the actual match itself. If Strong becomes champion, I want the international title scene to feature guys like Rouge, Takeshita, Jay White, and Bandido once he's back. Strong has the in-ring resume to make it happen, so here's hoping. I expect Roderick Strong to become the new champion after a great match against Orange Cassidy. Here's one of my most anticipated matches of the night, Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson for the Continental Crown. This one is about respect. This is an example of wrestling being able to tell good, grounded stories that don't require 30-minute in-ring promo segments. Again, this is an alternative. Bryan Danielson has made it clear he doesn't respect Kingston, going as far as to say that he's unprofessional and that his wasted potential upsets him. Kingston, on the other hand, wants to prove to Danielson that respect is a two-way street, and once the match is over, he's gonna make Bryan shake his hand. These two faced off twice during the Continental Classic, and both times they tore the house down. This is as pure as pro wrestling gets. Two grown men who simply don't like each other looking to best the other. I love Eddie, but Danielson has yet to win gold in AEW, and since it's his last full-time year, I'd love to see him win. On the other hand, I know that if it were up to Bryan, he'd never win another match again. He just loves to wrestle. The safe prediction is Eddie Kingston retains and gets Danielson to shake his hand. But there's still that part of me that wants to see Bryan pull it off. Following up with yet another match that I can't wait to see, Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita. Even with the card being as stacked as it is, I can't imagine this not being the match of the night from a pure in-ring perspective. Ospreay is finally joining the AEW roster as a full-time member, and AEW is hyping his arrival up pretty well. Takeshita, on the other hand, is someone who should have had a much bigger presence in 2023. He started off the year in promising fashion, but he's still stuck with the Don Callis family, which I'm completely over at this point. Takeshita should have automatically moved into the main event scene the minute he beat Kenny Omega. I don't expect Takeshita to win, but I hope this match with Ospreay is the start of his ascension to the top that should have started last year. As I said earlier, international champion at the very least. There's no way Ospreay loses his first match as a full-time member with AEW, so I'm going with Billy Goat for the win. But I hope there's a plan for Takeshita following Revolution, preferably one that doesn't involve the Don Callis family. We're down to the final 3 matches, and we're starting with Timeless Toni Storm defending her Women's World title against Dianna Perazzo. When Dianna debuted in AEW, I didn't expect her to walk right into the Women's World title scene, but it's actually felt natural and established her as a legitimate contender. It also helps that this is one of the few Women's World title matches with genuine effort put in the build-up. Toni Storm, on the other hand, is doing the best work of her career. Whether you love or hate her gimmick, you can't deny that she's committed to the bit, and it's made her more popular as a result. Despite the relatively good build, I think the outcome is obvious. I fully expect Toni Storm to retain her world title, but I hope there's a plan in place for Dianna once this feud is over. The women's division is in the best place it's been in the entirety of AEW's history, so I'm holding them to a higher standard now. I expect this match to be good at bare minimum, but with the potential to be great. Down to the final 2, and I guess I should start off with the match that I think is co-main eventing. Sting and Darby Allin defending their tag team titles against the Young Bucks. The only reason why I think this match won't be going on last is because Sting is super old school, and I just imagine him being a guy who would want the world title to go on last, despite the importance of his last match. Regardless, I expect this to be one of the most emotional matches of my lifetime. AEW has done right by Sting, so much so that I thought he still had a few more years left in him. But the fact that he gets to end his career on his terms is what truly matters. The Sting and Darby partnership has without a doubt been one of the best things AEW has ever done, in my opinion. Despite only being partners for 3 years, they've managed to build a resume that would put even some of the most popular tag teams to shame. Alright, this is a prediction video, sorry. I can sing the praises of Sting all day long, but I'll save that for a later time. Over 16,000 people will be in attendance to watch Sting and Darby enter the ring together one last time to take on the crooked EVPs, the Young Bucks. The Bucks have been doing some of the best work of their careers if you ask me, and they've managed to raise my intrigue for this match by some levels compared to if it was just them doing their old gimmick. It's the perfect last match despite what the bitter old podcasters think. The Bucks are gonna make Sting look like $1,000,000, no pun intended, and therefore, I have no doubt in my mind that we're getting a classic here. Remember what I said about Sting being old school just right now? Well, I think he's gonna want to go out by putting over his last opponent. If it were up to me, I'd have Sting retire as a champion, but it's up to Sting, and that's the best part. His terms. I can only guess, I don't know what he's thinking. Therefore, I think Sting, as he did many times throughout his legendary career, will give back to pro wrestling one last time and lose on his way out. Young Bucks will become 3-time tag team champions, but the most important part, we'll all be crying because Showtime will officially be over for Sting. Sincerely, thank you, Sting. Man, how do I follow that? Last, but most definitely not least, is the AEW World Title match, which will see champion Samoa Joe defend against Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland in a three-way. Let's make one thing clear, this match isn't an afterthought. It's yet another match on this card that's featured a great build where I could realistically see any of the three men picking up the win. Samoa Joe has been a great breath of fresh air as a world champion, and both Swerve and Hangman have been great in the chase. Joe is a legitimate threat who could beat anyone anytime. Meanwhile, Swerve is trying to accomplish his goal of becoming world champion while Hangman tries to prevent Swerve from making it happen. It's a great story that clickbaiters seem to ignore, or maybe they're just dumb. Oh yeah, that's it. Anyway, this one is hard to call. Joe just recently becoming world champion has me thinking there's a huge possibility he retains. Swerve, on the other hand, is so hot right now that you risk the chance of him cooling off if you don't pull the trigger at this moment. Then there's Hangman, who's a former world champion with a different character this time around that would be an acceptable twist ending should he win. I love the unpredictability. I truly believe that Swerve has enough fanfare that you can delay his crowning moment for just another couple of months. While it's good to see Hangman back in the world title scene, I think he's the least likely to win just based off the story they're telling. Therefore, I think Samoa Joe will retain and walk out of Revolution as world champion. Man, just writing this has me hyped. As I said at the beginning, Revolution has potential to be one of AEW's best shows ever. Last year's show ended up being phenomenal, but the build was lacking. This year, the build has been good, with potential to match the quality of last year's show. And who knows, maybe Tony Khan will throw in a surprise somewhere in there. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoy the show. I have a feeling I'll have a lot to talk about once the show is over.